1997. The rain hadn't stopped in 3 days when Neha Sharma, the school's brightest and most enigmatic student, vanished without a trace. She was last seen the night before, seated at her desk in room 105, scribbling in her diary under flickering candlelight. The power had gone out again, as it always did during storms. The next morning, her bed was untouched. Her suitcase was still zipped, but Neha was gone. There was no note, no signs of struggle, just a single thing left behind. The large mirror, bolted to the wall, now cracked, as if something inside had tried to get out. The school claimed she ran away, overwhelmed by academic pressure. But the students whispered a different story. They said the room was cursed, that Neha had been hearing whispers from the mirror for weeks, that she'd begun talking to her reflection as if it were someone else entirely. Some swore they heard screaming that night. Others said the mirror glowed faintly at midnight. But the creep was false. Every student assigned to room 105 since has left within days, sick, terrified, or silent. And each time, the mirror develops a new fracture, as if it's keeping count. To this day, no one knows what really happened to Neha. But late at night, the wind howls through the halls. Some still say they hear tapping from inside the glass, with a voice whispering a single name. Help. Perched high in the fog-drenched hills, St. Anselm's boarding school was the kind of place parents bragged about and students feared in secret. With ivy-covered stone walls, clock towers that chimed slightly offbeat, and iron gates that creaked even when still, it looked every bit the prestigious institution its reputation promised. But beneath its polished surface, the school carried a legacy whispered through generations, a legacy of silence, shadows, and sacrifice. Few knew that its founders, 3 Victorian-era scholars with grand visions and secret obsessions, were rumored to be involved in esoteric rites. In early journals, long since removed from the library shelves, they wrote of preserving potential through ritual and binding chaos behind glass. Official records are spotless, of course. The current headmaster, Mr. Rajan, insists those are nothing but wild conspiracy theories born from teenage imagination. He always smiles too quickly when asked about the past, and his answers come a little too rehearsed. But the students talk, especially about the North Wing, a portion of the school permanently sealed after a fire in the early 2000s. No one saw flames, no alarms ever went, yet the wing was cordoned off the very next day, locked behind rusting chains and a reinforced steel door that no one dares approach after sundown. Oddly enough, the rumors intensified after Neha's disappearance. People began to draw connections, symbols carved into door frames, strange oil paintings removed overnight, even the sudden resignation of 3 senior teachers after a particularly violent thunderstorm. And then there's the matter of 105. Tucked away at the far end of the East Dormitory, it's still technically close, but no one stays there long. Not anymore. Most pretend except for the mirror. Everyone knows about the mirror. Some say the school didn't bury its past, it built around it. And now, it waits. Aarav Mehta arrived at St. Anselm's with a scholarship letter in one hand and a duffel bag that had seen too many train stations in the other. Tall, quiet, and guarded, he carried himself like someone used to being the new kid, someone who'd learned not to get too attached to people or places. He wasn't here for prestige. He wasn't even here by choice. Back home, something had happened, something no one talks about anymore. A whispered scandal, a family reputation in tatters, and a boy who needed to disappear. Fast. St. Anselm's, with its remote location and clean slate promise, was the perfect hiding place. But from the moment Aarav stepped through the front gates, something felt off. The welcome was brief, the staff polite but distant, the students colder, especially when he was handed his room assignment. East Dormitory, room 105. The hall went quiet. A few students exchanged quick glances. One boy muttered something under his breath and made a subtle gesture, like a warding sign. Another simply smirked and said, "Better you than me." When Aarav asked what the big deal was, his roommate only shrugged. "It's just a room, right? You don't believe in all that ghost crap, do you?" He didn't. Or at least, he told himself he did. Still, as he walked alone down the dim hallway toward room 105, dragging his suitcase across the old wooden floor, the air seemed colder. The lights above buzzed slightly louder. And when he reached the door, he noticed something small, nearly invisible scratch across the number plate. Not a crack. A carving, like someone had taken a knife to the brass and etched a single, jagged line through the 0. And inside, waiting in silence, was a tall, antique mirror bolted to the far wall. Uncovered, facing the bed. The first night in room 105 was uneventful. Cold, yes, uncomfortably silent, but uneventful. It wasn't until the second night that Aarav heard it. A whisper, soft, brittle, barely louder than the wind.
Aarav!
He sat up, alert. Nothing. The hallway was still, the windows shut. He assumed it was a dream. The next night it came again, this time closer.
Aarav, please.
He checked his phone. 3:17 a.m. The screen glitched for a moment, then went completely black, dead battery. But it had been fully charged when he'd gone to bed. By the fourth night, it wasn't just whispering. There were sobs. The unmistakable sound of someone crying, muffled and distant, coming from behind the mirror. And then the sleepwalking started. Aarav would wake up in strange places, once slumped against the window, shivering with frost on his fingertips, another time kneeling in front of the mirror with his forehead pressed to the glass as though listening. He stopped telling anyone. Who would believe it? But the real terror came on the 7th morning. He woke, standing, perfectly still, not in his bed, but inside the mirror. Not metaphorically, literally. His reflection stared back at him in perfect stillness, but he couldn't move. He could see his body in bed, breathing. He could see the room, but he was trapped in glass, silent, weightless. Only when the morning sun hit the mirror's frame did he suddenly lurch forward, thrown back into his body like a wave crashing ashore. He gasped awake. Sweat, trembling, dry mouth, blood trickling from his nose. On the mirror's surface, drawn in condensation, were 5 words. "You're starting to hear me." By the 10th night, Aarav had stopped sleeping. The whispers were too loud, too specific. "Find me. Underneath. You already know." His reflection had started moving a second too late. The mirror wasn't just reflecting anymore, it was watching. Driven by desperation, Aarav began tearing the room apart, searching for something. He didn't know what. He just knew room 105 was hiding something. He tapped walls, peeked under the bed, pressed at the creaking floorboards until, click, a hollow thud. The third plank beneath the foot of the bed was loose. Old, warped by moisture, and splintered at the edges. His fingers bled crying. Inside the narrow crawl space beneath it, wrapped in yellowing linen and sealed with brittle wax, was a small, leather-bound journal. Neha's diary. The pages were warped, some ink smeared beyond recognition, but the handwriting was unmistakably hers, tight, urgent, slanted, like she was writing it out. The early entries were mundane: classes, stress, feeling watched. Then came dreams, whispers, nearer, a shadowy figure standing there, always facing her, never blinking. As the pages turned, her words became erratic, crossed out lines, ink blots like teardrops, and then the entries turned dark. I thought they were mentors, protectors, but they're not teachers. They wear human skin, but they serve the mirror. They call themselves the keepers, and they need another soul to contain her. The final page was nearly torn from the spine. Written in jagged strokes, the last entry read, "They told me the glass holds her, but I don't think she's trapped. I think she's waiting. And now, they want me to join her." As Aarav finished reading, a gust of wind slammed the door shut, though no windows were open. And on the mirror, in Neha's same handwriting, a new message appeared. "You're not the first." The diary never left Aarav's side after he found it. He read and reread the entries until he could feel Neha's panic rising off the pages like heat. Each night, the air in room 105 grew colder, heavier, thick with a presence that wasn't his. And then, one night, he noticed something impossible. As he brushed his teeth, head down, lost in thought, he caught it in his periphery. Movement. But he wasn't moving. He looked up. His reflection blinked. A moment too late. The delay wasn't subtle anymore. The mirror had become a second stage, and someone else had taken the role of Aarav. The next night, it got worse. He stood frozen at the foot of his bed, unable to sleep. The mirror sat still, silent, like always. Then, slowly, another figure appeared beside his reflection. A girl in a faded suit. Pale, hair tangled, her eyes sunk in black voids. Neha. But she didn't speak. Her mouth moved slowly, urgently, but no sound came out. She mouthed his name. Then she lifted her hand and pointed behind her, into the mirror's darkness. There, a second figure began to form. Taller, featureless, a silhouette of something human-shaped, but entirely wrong. Its face was smooth, eyeless, and yet, Aarav felt it was watching him with intense, predatory focus. Neha turned her head slowly, like she could hear it breathing. She reached toward Aarav, her fingers pressed against the inside of the glass. Aarav didn't move, but his reflection did. It stepped forward, tilted its head, mocking his frozen posture. It grinned, but Aarav did not. He stumbled back, heart racing, breath caught in his throat. The mirror version of him stayed close to the glass, hand raised, mirroring the girl's. And on the inside of the mirror, written in condensation from invisible breath, were 3 words. She chose you. The Forbidden Archive, rewritten and enhanced. Aarav couldn't face it alone anymore. He confided in the only person who might believe, Maya, a sharp, fiercely independent student with a reputation for breaking rules and piecing puzzles together. She didn't laugh. She didn't doubt. Instead, she said,
"And let's find out who's protecting the lie."
Late that night, they snuck into the administration wing, careful to avoid the creaky floor tiles and motion sensors. At the end of a shadow-drenched corridor behind a rusted utility closet, Maya pried loose a warped ventilator she'd been eyeing for weeks. Behind it, a narrow tunnel that led straight into the school's assembly. A place students weren't even supposed to know existed. Dust hung thick in the air like ash. Rows of rotting files, old trophies, and locked cabinets loomed in the dark. The walls smelled of mildew and forgotten time. Most documents were mundane, until Maya found a folder marked in red ink. Internal Order KGS. Inside, handwritten letters, faded photographs, and sealed meeting minutes, all dating back nearly a century. The more they read, the colder the room seemed to grow. The documents described a secret faculty society known as the Keepers of the Glass, founded by the school's original headmaster and passed down through select teachers. The Keepers believed that a school's greatness came at a cost, one they were willing to pay. The ritual involved a sacred mirror, a symbolic sacrifice, and a binding of spirit to space. Each time St. Anselm's face declined, drop in prestige, academic scandal, bad press, a soul was offered to restore the balance. A student, always one chosen for their potential. Disappearances masked as transfers, suicides never publicly explained. And in every instance, the final step of the ritual was the same. Seal the spirit in the vessel. Let her watch. Let her hunger. She is the mirror. Aarav's hands shook as he held the oldest photo, grainy and brittle, of 4 men and 1 girl, teachers, and Neha, younger, smiling, unaware. Beside the photos listed names, dates. Neha's was the last on the page, until now, because someone had already begun to write the next entry. And it said, Aarav Mehta, pending.
Bloodlines and Betrayals, rewritten and enhanced.
The archive had answered some questions, but it left one terrifying truth hanging in the air. Why Aarav? Why room 105? Why the whispers calling him by name? Maya dug deeper, while Aarav barely slept, days blurred. The mirror grew more aggressive, its reflection twitching, showing glimpses of things that shouldn't be there. Flickering scenes of Neha crying, being dragged, teachers chanting around the mirror, her screams cut short. And then Maya found something in the personnel records, something hidden inside a locked filing drawer labeled Admissions Special Candidates. Aarav Mehta's application file was there, but he never applied. His scholarship had been awarded through an old legacy program no longer in use, sponsored by a private benefactor. The signature at the bottom of the approval form made his stomach drop. Rajan Sharma, the headmaster. Aarav confronted him the next day. The man didn't deny it. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he smiled. A sad, weary smile, like someone who'd been waiting for this moment for a long time.
You were never meant to stay hidden, Aarav. You were always going to come home to her. In the silence that followed, truth unraveled like poisoned thread. Neha Sharma, the girl who vanished, the ghost in the mirror, was Aarav's half-sister. The product of an affair the headmaster had covered up decades ago. Neha had discovered the truth herself in the weeks before her disappearance and, worse, had uncovered the cult her father belonged to. She threatened to expose them all, so they silenced her. But before she vanished, Neha had placed her diary beneath the floorboard in room 105, sealed and protected by a ritual of her own, meant only for one person to find. Aarav, her brother, her successor. This was never random, Maya whispered, horrified. They didn't give you that room by mistake. They brought you here because the mirror needs another blood offering. Not fate, not coincidence, summoning. And now, Aarav understood. The mirror didn't want anyone. It wanted family. The ritual reversed, rewritten, and enhanced. The ritual wasn't meant to be reversed. The keepers made sure of that. But Neha had left more than warnings in her diary. She'd hidden pages torn from the original rite, rewritten with trembling hands, piecing together a forbidden path to break the cycle. 3 flames, 1 mirror, 1 name spoken backward, blood from the past, salt for the soul, but a trade, always a trade. Aarav and Maya prepared everything in secret, hiding in the east wing as thunder rolled across the sky. The school had emptied for the weekend, no one around to hear the chanting or the screaming. They encircled the mirror in a ring of candles. Arav's fingers trembled as he lit each one, whispering Neha's name in reverse, spilling a drop of blood onto the glass from the same cut that had opened when he first found her diary. The mirror began to hum, it shimmered, and then it opened. Smoke poured from the edges of the frame as if from the mouth of something ancient. The reflection twisted into a tunnel of flickering scenes. Neha in her final moments, dragged by robed figures, crying out, eyes full of betrayal. Then, Neha herself stepped through the smoke, no longer just a ghost, a presence, pale and flickering, but whole. She looked at Aarav with desperate urgency. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If you finish it, you'll take my place." But Aarav's voice was already caught in the final verse. The words spilled from his mouth like they weren't his own. The ritual had taken hold. The candles flared blinding white. The mirror pulsed and shattered. A scream tore through the room, not from Neha, but from Aarav. His body collapsed. The pieces of the mirror blew outward, glass spinning through the air like shards of memory. When Maya opened her eyes, the smoke had cleared. Neha stood, blinking, alive, whole. And on the wall, where the mirror once hung, a new surface had formed, smooth, black, and reflective. In it, a face stared back, Aarav's, mouth open, eyes begging, trapped. The new whisper, rewritten and enhanced. Years passed. The official records stated that Aarav Mehta transferred out of St. Anselm's during the spring break of his final year. No explanation, no farewell. His dorm room was quietly sealed for renovations. And the staff never spoke of him again. But the students remembered, especially Maya, who never returned after that night. She vanished from social media, moved abroad, changed her name. The school called it personal reasons. Room 105 remained locked. Dust gathered behind the door. The cracked mirror replaced with a solid wood panel. The hallway always seemed colder on that end, as if time itself was holding its breath. But time, as it always does, wore down the story into whispers, until the year of the school's centennial. Enrollment surged, dormitories filled, room 105 was reopened. The new student was a quiet, curious girl named Naina, smart, introverted, and thrilled by the idea of living in the oldest wing of the school. No one mentioned what happened there. The past had been scrubbed clean. That night, she unpacked her bags and laid in bed, gazing at the new mirror bolted to the wall. Sleek, uncracked. Midnight came. The air went still. Her phone flickered once, then died, though it had been charging. At 3:17 a.m., she stirred. From the mirror came a faint sound. Not static, not wind, a voice. Trembling, familiar.
Maya, it's me.
A pause. Then whispered slower.
Don't trust the mirror.
Naina sat up, heart pounding. She didn't know anyone named Maya. But in the mirror's reflection, just for a second, her eyes blinked out of sync, and her reflection smiled first.